Player 2 has joined the game.
Hey yo, what's up everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Two Player Co-op Podcast. As always, I'm one of your hosts here, Kevin, along with my brother from my mother, Sean.
How we doing?
Fantastic. But if this is the first time you're seeing, hearing, or listening to us, this is the Two Player Co-op Podcast, where just about every week, two brothers get together to tell you everything you need to know about in the world of video games. If you like that, make sure you like the video, subscribe, share it with your friends, family, and everyone in betwixt. If you only listen to us on audio services, that's cool too. Just leave us a 5-star review or a thumbs up or whatever they do. If you really like us, you can go to patreon.com/2playercoop. Just like, I don't have it written down here, but our affiliates, James Solar, Sarah Solar, and John Tingley did, as well as our producers, Steve Appleton, Aunt Sue, Vernon Slayton, and Dustin Downs. If you like merch, like cool t-shirts and stuff, you can go to teespring.com/stores/2playercoop. So, if you couldn't tell by the title of the video or the podcast, we got to interview Mr. Colin Moriarty for a second time, and this was a lot of fun.
I enjoyed it. Super cool guy, as you all know. But
well, no, he's the devil, according to some
but
of
if you're
people.
watching this, you're probably cool with Colin.
So the first time we interviewed him, we did a lot of talk about Habroxia 2, which we love that game and everything. But this time, especially how the last couple of months went for us with a certain group here in Memphis, we wanted to touch on some other stuff. So we did that. Colin got a little candid, I would say. But we had a lot of fun doing this. Again, he's just... this is why I get pissed off whenever anybody just tries to lie about him. He is the nicest and kindest dude, and if you don't believe that, then you just don't know what the hell you're talking about. I'm just sorry you don't. So yeah, I think that's enough of an intro. Sean, do you agree?
Let's get right to it.
Here's our interview with Mr. Colin Moriarty. Greetings and salutation, everybody. Welcome to a very special episode of the Two Player Co-op Podcast. We are joined today by the patriarch of Last Stand Media himself, Colin Moriarty. Thank you for coming back with us, my man.
Welcome back.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for the kind words. Good to be here with you. And happy to do this with you tonight.
So yeah, this is it's a dream come true for us twice over now. Thank you so much for coming on the first time. Thank you for coming on again. We have been a little bit busy the last few weeks. So we had one of your sons, Dustin Furman, came on with us.
Nice.
A couple weeks ago. He was gracious enough to grace us with his presence. That was awesome. We talked to John O'Peck about Trigger Witch a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, we've been a little bit busy. So thank you so much for coming back on with us, my man.
Yeah, no problem. I actually just recorded with Jono yesterday for Sacred Symbols Plus that will go live, I think, on Saturday. So awesome. Yeah. It's no problem at all. I'm happy to do these appearances. And now that I can just basically kick everything over to Micah and not have to schedule anything and can kind of just show up, that's like easiest. So definitely no problem now.
Awesome. We love Micah. Like I told her when I was emailing back and forth, I'm just so happy for you and Micah and Rush and everybody. It just seems like you are the happiest you've ever been since I've been following you.
Thank you.
And it just warms my heart. So awesome.
Yeah. Thanks. I mean, I don't know, happy is,
well, I mean, you're
I don't know about that, but yeah, let's not get carried away, but yeah, no, I'm good. I'm doing very well. And everything seems to be doing fine. So yes, I appreciate your kind words. Everything has been going swimmingly, and Micah and I are very, very simpatico with each other in terms of just we both like. She really is, like when you sometimes bend to cater to another person, and it's really not like that. Like we really just don't like going anywhere. We really just don't like doing things. Like we like to we walk the dog multiple times a day, and we talk a lot, and etc. We don't need to do it, so it's nice. I did indeed find the yin and my yang, which is cool.
That's awesome.
Also, congrats on the live show. We can't make it because life, but I will say, so I know you've been here in the past for 311 Day. Memphis would be an awesome place for you to come and do a live show. I'm just going to say we're in the quote unquote, not the real, obviously, because we grew up in New York, but the tri-state area with Arkansas and Mississippi. So hopefully that goes awesome. And yeah, we would love to have you here in Memphis. We got a cool retro bar here that would love to host you, I would assume. I don't think they're not PAX or anything, but Memphis, I think, would be an awesome place for you to come in the future.
Yeah, we want to see, first of all, thanks. And we want to see what we can learn from this event and like what we need to know. And I want to do like shows with a purpose. So I just have this idea. I haven't really even talked about it publicly, but just this idea of, I used to like this debate and lecture series called Intelligence Squared. I think they still do it, but and it would just present a question and then there would be people debating both sides of it, and it would be all sorts of different cool. I don't know. I really like the stuff that they did. And I always kind of set this seed in my head of like, could we create something that's a little more fun and like accessible, but something for games where what is the best game of all time? What is the best narrative of all time? What is the most overrated console of all time? All of these kinds of things. And then go to different cities and answer these different questions with different audiences and have some sort of compilation of, so it's not just like a panel, but rather like an evening with, and then it adds to this tapestry we're trying to build of interesting lectures and debates and whatever, and just interactions with the audience. I think it's going to be a little zanier than I'm letting on, but I want it to be something substantive too. And I think it's kind of, it's worked out really nicely that we weren't we were disinvited from PAX a few years ago, because I don't think we would have ever investigated this idea otherwise. And it's really Dustin and Ben's brainchild.
Right.
They presented me with this. It wasn't something I really ever thought that I would do.
Awesome.
I like it.
I know you don't like the live shows and everything, but yeah, if we could ever get you to Memphis, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, I think that's that's the other thing, is that Memphis isn't a small town like Butler, but it is off the beaten path when you think about the places people go, and that is kind of what I would like to do. So we'll see.
Awesome. Well, we can help you out however we can. So I gotta say, one programming note that I have. So I put this into Patreon every time it comes up. It never gets upvoted. I don't know why, but let me just broach this to you and see what happens. Knockback, you and Dagan, NES versus SNES.
Yeah,
so
we could do something like that. I don't know.
So we do a series on here. We started doing in the past, and we just started doing it again. But we do NES games versus SNES, or SNES versus Genesis, etc. But what I was thinking, like, because I know you still think, I assume, that the NES was the best console ever.
Yeah, that's my favorite console ever. I think I can make a case for why it's the best. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we went back and forth when we ranked ours. We had the SNES and the PS4 actually tied for number one.
Yep.
But I would love to see a knockback episode where you guys like say, let's go Mario 3 versus Mario World, Metroid versus Super Metroid, Mario 3 versus Mario World, and on Contra versus Contra 3, etc. And just see who comes out on top. So that was one thing I just wanted to broach. Like the NES, I think we ranked it third. I think
it was up there. Yeah, it may have been third.
I'm pretty sure it was number 3, but that was just one thing that I think you guys could have a lot of fun with. It never gets upvoted, but I just wanted to broach that to you now, just in case.
Yeah, no, it's good feedback. We are trying to, I don't know, we feel like we were being too broad early on, so we're trying to narrow in closer and closer. I don't know what we've even done for NES or SNES. I feel like we covered those in different ways when we were doing the show a little differently. So it's possible that we would do something like that. I'd be interested to see what Dagan has to say about the consoles, especially because he has helped write books on the NES and SNES with Pat Contry. So he'd have like some interesting feedback on that as well. But yeah, I don't know. We have just this medley of topics that we need to get to, including ones that have been voted by the audience that we're still working towards. Metal Gear Solid 2 just keeps getting punted. I think we'll do that in a couple of weeks. And then Metal Gear Solid 3 got voted, so we have to figure that out as well. But it's just a lot of games, so Dagan doesn't really have as much time to play. And frankly, I don't know that I really do either. like these older games. Like it's disruptive to me too. So we have to try to fit them in. But also people are like, we started doing MCU stuff and people were digging that, and we just did Lord of the Rings and all this. So yeah, we'll figure it out. So I guess what I'm saying is we don't want to move too quickly through any of the topics, because not that there's any fear of running out of things, but and there are certain topics we won't do, like, or like we don't know when we would do them. Like we still haven't done A New Hope, for instance.
Metal Gear Solid 3 is still my favorite game ever. So I'm glad that won that vote. That makes me very happy. But I cannot wait for you guys to do. I'm almost more interested to see you guys do Metal Gear Solid 2, just because of like,
I think there's a lot more to talk about with that.
Yeah, like
especially in today's.
Exactly. With what Kojima was going for, like he who controls the flow of digital information controls the world, and in the world we're living in right now, that's, it's I cannot wait. I can't wait for you guys to do that.
Yeah, I think Dagan actually bought like a new copy of the game, like, or a nicer copy of it to play. I don't know why he did that, because it's definitely in my collection and he has it, but
right.
So he's been working his way through it, and I've been playing it on Vita, but I restarted it a couple times, and then I got like an hour or so in, and I gotta say, it's like, man, this game's pretty brutal from a gameplay perspective. It just really is. It's just really brutal. It doesn't hold up, but I loved it back in the day, but it's just so hard to control. It's so unintuitive. I have to override everything I've learned about games in the last 20 years to play it properly. And yet I remember very clearly when I was a senior in high school when it came out, playing it and just loving it. So I'm taking copious notes, as I usually do, and we'll have a lot to say about it in the coming weeks.
Yeah, that's what Sean always says. He always says that the old Metal Gear games do not hold up, and I get that.
And I always like 2 better than 3, and I'm sure they control almost identically. But I know I was going to say recently, it's been a while now, but whenever it was that I tried to go back and play 3, I couldn't get past the first few like screens. It was just kind of hold this button to draw, but then hit it was just it's bad. It's bad.
Yeah, it's nonsense. It's totally nonsensical.
Yes.
I think that with 3 in the Blue Point collection, I think on PS3 adds it because it's a subsistence port. I think adds a 3D camera, which is cool. So that fixes a lot of the problem, because it is the fixed camera plus all of just I think on Vita it's like hold circle, which it was on PS2, but hold circle to shoot, and then hold them up by going into art with R1. Hold them up like it's. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. This game would be so much better if you could play it. That's why I hope that they go back and revisit it, which I assume they will one day, and just fix it. Like they don't need to do very much, but just you got to add a 3D camera in there at least.
And see, that's kind of how I felt about Skyward Sword when I was trying to play non-motion controls. It was just nothing felt intuitive, and every enemy I would come across, I had to stop and kind of collect myself and be like, okay, I'm going to walk up to him. I'm going to hold this button, then I'm going to get ready to do this. And nothing felt natural. And that's exactly how it felt going back, trying to play those games.
I can't get over that Konami has been so negligent in leaving games alone, while seeing some of their compatriots like Capcom and others revisit old games that needed similar help and received it. And they did it kind of granularly. Like we got Remake first, remember, on GameCube, and then they re-released that digitally. And RE4 saw all of these different permutations. I think the ultimate Resident Evil 4 version is the Wii version, like no doubt in my mind about it, because it overrides against some of the cumbersome control problems. And even when they revisited these games 10 years ago in these ports, they didn't go quite far enough in refining them, quite like I would think Blue Point later did when they remade Shadow of the Colossus and did other things and fixed some stuff. So I feel like controls are becoming streamlined in such a way that it's hard to go backwards. And the more you, I this is a weird example, but I've been watching, and I think I've talked about this on the show, but I watched this guy Drain Addict on YouTube, who's like this Australian guy that goes and fixes like clogged drains. Like that's literally what he does. And it's just these like really popular videos of him just doing this rote work. And one of the fun things about it is watching how streamlined it is for him, and how his hands just kind of move on his machines, on his different tools, and he just knows what he's doing. And that becomes more and more ingrained in one's mind until it's hard to go backwards. And so these games are just going to become more difficult to play. I think games in the 2D plane don't suffer from this problem, but a lot of games in the 3D plane absolutely do. And I must say that even in 2001, as you guys might recall, this game still was archaic. There were 3D games that had independent camera control at this time too. And even games that had fixed cameras in 2001, like Onimusha and others, still felt better than this. So that was the thing that I always had to kind of override my my opposition to the gameplay to get into Metal Gear. And the more I was unwilling to do that, the more that series became an inaccessible option for me.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
I get it. Well, hopefully Sony just buys Blue Box, for crying out loud. Or Blue Point. Sorry. We'll get into that in a minute here. I can't wait to talk to you about that. Okay. So Colin, I want to talk to you about this. So I'm going to call this story time with Kevin. I don't know how you deal with the amount of ridiculous crap that comes your way. So a couple months ago, we used to be associated with a group here in Memphis that rhymes with turd, mine, oh, done.
I mean, we can say their name.
Yeah. Okay. Nerd 901. And they're super liberal in all this. And when we interviewed you last time, to me, it was the highlight of our quote unquote career podcasting. It was everything I could ask for. It was awesome. You were super gracious. It was an awesome talk. We talked about Hybrixia 2, everything. And none of those guys, 5, 6, 7 guys that we were associated with, no one gave a like, retweet, text, anything, because Colin made a bad Al Bundy joke. Okay, fine, whatever. So then a couple months ago, when you were saying how God of War 2 should be a PS5 game, which especially as a PS5 owner, I would like that to be a PS5 only game. There was someone named Pikachu Lita, who is a local Memphis streamer. And she was like, we don't want any of those C-Star Lynn Moriarty fanboys being here. And I was like, it's so funny how no one can ever say Colin's name. It's ridiculous to me. And then one of the guys from Nerd 901, Ernie, the Blurb Without Fear, which is ironic, was like, okay, so we're making fun of Memphis streamers now. And I'm like, well, I don't really care where you're from. I think if you're going to call somebody out, like I've done many times on Twitter, Game Dad GP, whatever I don't even know what his actual name is, Mr. Negative, whatever his name is now on Twitter. He keeps changing his handle so nobody can mention him. I was like, I don't care who it is. Ernie and I went back and forth, and then he just said, basically, Colin is he's a, what do you say, top tier trash human.
Something like that.
If he was a superhero and saved a bunch of babies from a burning building, I wouldn't care. And also, this shows me why I don't like you. And I'm like, okay, I didn't realize that. I thought we were fine. We've had some disagreements in the past over stupid comic books and wrestling, whatever. And then I got a text from the leader of the group here. And it was so frustrating. I felt like Larry David at that moment. I just finally started watching Curb. I feel like a fake Seinfeld fan because I never had HBO. I'm finally watching Curb. But it was one of those Larry David moments where it's like, no, I was texting you to tell you that we were done because we've been done forever. Ever since they said nothing about our interview with you, I was like, you know what? We don't need this crap. You guys provide nothing. We're just done. They didn't want anything to do with us. I was like, well, that's fine because we don't want anything to do with you. And here's 100 reasons why. And then, so we're done with them. So that's why I feel fine talking about this. Last time I felt like they were like just watching everything we said, whatever. But now I see like last week, some random dude on Twitter is like, oh, Colin's telling people not to get vaccinated. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I guess, man, like how, like, I'm a conservative. I hate Trump. You left the Republican Party over Trump because he's a freaking psychopath. You've been pro-gay marriage as long as I've been listening to you. You've been in favor of transgender rights. You've talked about, you know, the issues with police states, and on and on and on. You've spoken out for minority rights every chance you get. Like, man, how, like, is it to the point now where you can just brush this stuff off? Like, I don't know, man. I just don't know how you deal with this stuff, dude.
I honestly, it's frustrating, but at the same time, I'm somewhat immune to the nonsense now. I just kind of, when I became aware of that, like you're talking about this clique of people, I don't really know these people, but it's frustrating probably for them because Sacred Symbols probably has more listeners than everything they do combined.
Oh my God. Yes. Not even, they don't do anything. They what they do is they latch on to local Memphis people and they ride their coattails. One of the people was Zombie Kills, whatever her name is. And then she turned out to be a complete psychopath. So they got rid of her, but now they're like, well, they reached out to us originally because we were kind of up and coming in Memphis 3-4 years ago, whatever it was. They latched onto our coattails. But they don't do anything. They do like one podcast a month that no one listens to. And now they're just like, well, Ernie's our cash cow. So whatever Ernie says, we will do. And I don't even care if they see this, whatever. Hey guys. But it's just so weird. Like when you are like surrounded by people in an echo chamber and there is no way that anyone can think any differently than they do. Like, I know you've been there, man, but like, I just don't know how mentally it's just, I don't know, Colin. It's just like, I don't know how you deal with all this stuff. Like we've experienced this in a very small way on some of the videos we've done in the past. We don't need to get into that, but I just like, yeah. So do you just brush it off? Like, does like, I don't know, like, does Micah get pissed? Like, do you guys just, you can
Micah gets mad sometimes. I mean, sometimes people, I usually brush most of it off because if you really start compartmentalizing it, and you can kind of analyze it, you realize, I mean, that's what I was saying was if you have I have an audience a huge audience of people that comment and want to hear what I have to say about things and they know who I am. And, like the vaccination thing or like the vaccination thing is just weird to me just because I think that people are mistaken if they think that I'm some sort of political microphone for them to, or public health microphone with which they will say their message. I got vaccinated. I got it vaccinated as soon as I possibly could. I was really eager to get vaccinated and I believe in the efficacy of the vaccines, but I'm not going to tell people what to do. I mean, it's just not going to happen. Like I don't know like what I think you should get the vaccine, but you have to, I'm a fucking video game podcaster. Like, what do you want? What do you want me to say? You know, it's just very strange. I know what I do in my life and I try to really keep the conversation when it gets political or social, philosophical, economic to the subject matter at hand. So as to not necessarily not alienate people, because that's, if they want to be alienated, that's fine. But just because people don't really do people really need to hear? It's like the old meme of like, what does Ja Rule think of 9/11 or whatever? It's like, you know, like, why are we asking these people? Right. Why do you care what I think about COVID-19 at all? It's very strange. As far as the things people say about me, I know it's not true. And I think that people that listen to me are befuddled by it. And I think also it's just really helped us. We get many messages from people that are like, wow, I was totally wrong. I didn't know, and blah, blah, blah. And I've had similar experiences actually recently. Tim Pool had like a debate in quotes with Charlie Kirk and Vaush or Vosh, however you say his name. And two of these two political people, one on the right, one on the left. And I don't know anything about either of them really. All I know is what people have said about them and kind of their reputation on social media, et cetera, and so on. I think one is like almost like a communist or like a socialist, like anarchist kind of person, and the other is like a far right, or not far right, but right wing kind of Trump person. And what I realized in watching this like open-mindedly was I was like, wow, neither of these people are nearly as cartoonish or bad as anyone was saying. Yeah. And so I try to give myself the same sort of leeway. Micah does get mad about it. Other people in my life get mad about it, but I don't really get mad about it. I've kind of won. I mean, I'm not trying to be an asshole, but I won. It's over now. You can stop. I have a really great life. I'm doing better than I've ever done. And I've not hurt or swung at really anyone at all. So people can keep doing what they want to do, but we're very like hyper focused on the content, and they could be hyper focused on me, but that's awesome. Like their view and their attention counts just as much as someone else's on YouTube, just as much as someone else's on podcast services. I think some people just don't quite understand that either. Like you're not, I've even heard people being like, I don't want, I'll watch Defining Duke instead. And I'm like, that's great, dude. I own Defining Duke.
Thank you.
So we want to just create content that's honest, versatile in terms of what you can expect out of it. And, and not only honest from a guttural sense, like a spiritual sense, but honest in what it gets wrong and stuff too. And I think we have a really good thing going. I think that's why we have fans, and a lot of other people don't. And I'm not trying to be mean to those people.
Right.
It's just say something different, say something meaningful, and people will flock to you and come to you. And that is what it is. So yeah, do I let it kind of, I think if I was more beaten down economically or more beaten down with my company, I mean, just honestly speaking, like maybe I'd be feeling really differently, but
yeah,
it didn't work out like that. And so it's, I guess in some ways easy for me to be like, when I think about some of these people and I'm like, man, like you definitely are in rough shape and I don't need to defend myself against you.
Yeah. These people are just like, that's all they have. Like we go back to Game Dad GP, Mr. Megadeth, whatever his name is now. I don't even know his actual name. But then I go and I'm like, we are just like, we both have full-time jobs with a medical, manufacturing company here in Memphis. We do this as a hobby. It's a way for us to hang out and everything. And then I go and check out the YouTube channel for SD, whatever his thing is. I'm like, you guys do less views than us, but you're supposed to be this, like the voice of the people and all this. I'm like, no, you just are like, oh, people don't like Colin. I'm just going to talk about Colin. I'm going to get mad about Colin. I'm going to get likes and retweets and stuff. And I don't want to live my life that way. Also, I think it's ridiculous. Anything anybody says about you, like anytime anybody has come at me like, oh, you like Colin, I'm like, well, okay, tell me what you don't like. Oh, he's a bad person. Okay, why? No, he just is. Okay, why? And they have like
nothing.
They got nothing. Like, yes, you made a joke 4, 5, whatever. I don't even know. 4.5 years ago. Really? Like, you guys are so obsessed over this. Like, you got to get a life, man. I will just never understand the way that you live rent free in people's heads is just astounding to me. And I guess that's just what they get off on. I don't know, man. But like, yeah, like I said, I've been a fan forever. I've been with you through it all. Both of us have, I'm a proud Patreon supporter, Last Stand Media. I think everything you guys are doing is awesome. And I just will never understand that these people think that that's just the way the world is. Like I had somebody that I was, well, it's not even worth it. I tweeted somebody about how it's like, I don't think someone should call you a cracker based on your opinion about God of War 2. And they were like, okay, so you hate black people. And I was like, what the hell are you talking about? How do you go from that to I hate black people? What the hell are we talking about? And I know it's the internet and it's Twitter and everything, but man, it's just, man, like navigating this whole digital space is just insane right now.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I just don't even bother really anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about the opinions of the irrational. They have no power over me at all. Like they have no power over me. I'm good. Like, everything's kind of copacetic and that bothers them more than anything. So
yeah,
I'll just continue to, they can get likes and retweets on their things. I'll get numbers, like the most important types of numbers.
Exactly.
I feel like
in the vault, for instance.
And I feel like that's the mindset you have to not go crazy. So you have to brush it off. You have to not care. And I think that, like you said, that's what's gonna, it's the whole living well is the best revenge, I guess. I think they hate seeing that you're flourishing. They don't want to admit that you are, and it drives them crazy.
Yep.
We were talking to when we were talking to Jono about Trigger, which I think it was off air, but he was talking about how he got some negative reviews on Trigger Witch because of your involvement. They saw your name in the credits and they were just like, well, I like this game, but I can't support it because Colin was involved. I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah, they don't need. I mean, I just talked to them about how their game is doing, and needless to say, they don't need their support.
Yeah.
So, and I don't either. Like the thing is that these are authoritarian natured people, authoritarian minded people. They want to control things. They want to control what you say. They want to control what people buy. They want to control what people have access to, who has a microphone, who has a platform, whatever. My answer to that is no. I mean, you're not going to control me, and I don't need, like, every barrier that has been thrown up, we've just overcome it. And every time we've overcome one of those barriers, we've just become bigger. So we just stopped talking to PR like 3 years ago, just completely stopped talking to all PR. Didn't matter. We got banned from, or like removed from PAX, our own panel, like in the big theater there. It didn't matter. We just got bigger. We got, over and over and over again, people try to get in our way, and it just doesn't matter. It's like, you're not going to hurt us. We have a community of people. We're doing our thing. You can build your own community, do your thing. I don't care. I'm not coming after you. I don't care what you say. I'm not trying to deplatform you, anything like that. That's never been the case with me. So it's kind of easy to live when that's what I'm trying to say to you guys, is like, when you kind of just do everything by the book and you really are in the right, then there's nothing else you can do. If you're trying to please crazy people, you're ultimately not going to be able to do it. And I think just leaving a very hyper liberal, like comic book liberal place like San Francisco and Santa Monica, where I lived for 13 years, and going to somewhere much more moderately conservative like Central Virginia, has just reminded me that it's not like one being right, one being wrong necessarily. It's just that you can get locked into these various places where you don't even realize how the other side lives, or like what people have to say and all of that kind of stuff. And so if people want to call me X, Y, or Z, that's totally fine. It's pretty funny, to be called these various things. And some people are like, why don't you correct someone when they say, you're racist, you have a black girlfriend? And I'm like, well, I've said this to Micah too, because she's wanted to jump in, and I'm like, you're not a prop in my life. Like, I love you. You're not, I don't care. Like, I don't need to defend myself. Anyone who knows anything about me knows that that just doesn't have any muster. So I think some people get too caught up in being too online. And some of the people that you mentioned are some of those people. And the game dad dude that you brought up, it's just the kind of person, it's just very emblematic of the kind of person in the industry that is toxified the space to such a degree that the source of the toxification has become lost, and thus they can also become the arbiters of those that are going to clean up the industry. And it really just doesn't make any sense. And so you can't try to please those kinds of people, and those kinds of people don't have any power. In fact, I think people like that are being used by others that are too cowardly to say what they need to say. And so you realize over and over again that it just is not a reflection of the real world. And being where I am now and living the life I live now, and you just realize it's just not a reflection of reality at all. I just walk around my neighborhood with my dog after dinner, and the neighbors are out and people are hanging out and cars are driving by, and no one's talking about any of this stuff, and no one cares.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't have to, like, I feel bad for people that are really caught up in that stuff regularly. I think everyone gets, or not everyone, but many people get caught up in it from time to time. But those that are caught up in it habitually, like, it betrays an obvious disenchantment with your own life to disconnect to that degree to where you don't even care about how you would come off to a real person. And the thing is that I would, outside of my comedic elements of our shows, I would never say anything on my shows that I wouldn't want someone to hear.
Right.
And I just couldn't imagine putting this laundry list of stuff that they say in front of a normal person and be like, oh, this is how they talk. That's why I just know that these people like don't have jobs. That's why I know that these people like don't have happy lives and real connections. Like, because there's just no way, there's no way. Yeah. There's just no way. And that's how you have to live in a very isolated and sad state in order to sustain that, because there's no way that another human being would be like, you did what on the Twitter for what reason? And then be like, oh yeah, you're normal, let's go to lunch. It just doesn't work out that way. So it is what it is. I would encourage you guys not to get too caught up in it.
There you go.
Yeah. I agree.
By the way, nobody's talking about China or Tencent or anything. So, we'll leave that there. But yeah,
I'm gonna look really smart about that in a few years. Like I guarantee you, trust me, I'm time stamping and saving all of the shows of the things I've said. And when as it gets worse and worse, and people begin to wake up or start putting up barriers to these things, then you will understand that I was at least talking. And that's what I'm saying, keeping it relevantly political. I don't have to talk about Red China, like for no reason on the show. I mean, just because I have a problem with Mao or something, I don't have to go there. It has nothing to do with our show, but that economically has everything to do with the industry.
Yes.
And so that's what I'm talking about keeping it germane politically to the subjects at hand. So people can open their eyes, like Tom at Moore's Law is Dead was recently saying very well, which is like, people need to grow up and understand that this stuff matters and that they should learn about it. But when you tune into a PlayStation podcast, you should expect that, like, if politics comes up, it's somehow connected to PlayStation. And I feel like just narrowing it down that way opens people's minds, keeps the content really fresh, and allows people to discover things that they otherwise wouldn't have discovered while having these parallel interests that are otherwise not going to be discussed on other places. That's what differentiates us, I think, and why I'm happy to do it. And it's not only that issue, it's other issues too.
Yep. I agree. And I love Tom telling people, like, grow up. Like, I was listening today to Sacred Symbols Plus. It's like, just grow up. Like, what are we talking about? Whatever. All right. So that's enough of the drama.
Yeah, we appreciate the candid conversation. That was awesome.
Actually, one other thing, Colin, I just want to say, I know it's months old at this point, but I want to say thank you for the interview with Jaffe on your channel. I know you probably didn't think it was going to turn into Jaffe interviewing you, but as someone that's followed you for a long time and was a big fan of Kind of Funny and all that, it was just, for me personally, it was awesome to see you open up and be vulnerable and talk about everything. And there's a lot of people that wouldn't have done that. So I know that was probably really hard for you. And I just want to say thank you for that. I'm sure it was cathartic for you. It was cathartic for me being a fan of you and a fan of Kind of Funny back in the day. That was just, it was awesome to see. And I just wanted to say thank you for that.
Yeah, no, you're welcome. I'm glad people enjoyed that episode. And in the moment, and I think in hindsight too, I still feel the same way, that it just felt like, well, I kind of have to, if I ask people to come on this show and kind of speak their minds and open themselves up. And so if someone's going to kind of come at me with that, then I guess I can do that in a way that makes the most sense. Because the truth is that I'm totally sick of talking about the subject. And
I know,
not because it's like it brings me any sort of shame or embarrassment. It's just, it's trite. I'm just like, right. I don't want to talk about this anymore. But when he brought it up and just asked these questions, and I was thinking, I'm like, you know what? All right, like, we'll just have this being one of the touchstones that people can go back to and listen to and get some of the answers that they feel like they wanted or understood already innately and just needed confirmation and all of the rest. And we can move on from there. I just think that what they became is their thing and what we became is our thing. And I don't think they would want what I have, and I don't want what Kind of Funny became, right? Like, it's not an insult. It's just a difference in philosophy and approach, and everything that happened to me in quotes and continued to the attacks and all that kind of stuff. It's just, I think it goes back to what you were saying earlier. I prevailed, so it doesn't matter now. We can talk about other things, and they can write the history however they want, but the reality is just that it worked out pretty well.
Yep. So I will say we like what you got. I'll leave it there. But speaking of drama and crazy stuff, Sean.
So yeah, switching gears a little bit. We were excited, when we locked down this date for you. We thought we were going to have some interesting stuff to talk to you about with Blue Box and Abandoned, whatever this is going to turn out to be. Obviously, that didn't happen. Technical issues. I'm not entirely convinced that wasn't all somehow part of the plan, but regardless, where do you stand? I mean, what are your thoughts on this whole blue box thing? Is it a series of coincidences? Is this Kojima? Is it really just some dude? I mean, what are your thoughts on the whole blue box
Yeah,
and abandoned thing?
I don't know. I really don't. I don't know. I mean, my gut check has always kind of been, because I'm totally happy to go down with the ship. It's meaningless ultimately. Is
Me too.
that I just think there is something more to it, and I think it's obvious, but I don't know. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's Kojima. I don't know if it's Silent Hill. I think those have different likelihoods, but I don't think it is what it's being purported to be. And the disruption today is a little surprising. I don't know exactly how it works on PS5, but PS4 patches don't, like, once you're like in the dev system, you don't necessarily have to have these patches even pass QA or get permission. You can send them live. We've sent our own patches live without being QA'd before several times. You can't do it on Vita, and I don't know if you can do it on PS5, but I thought that was weird because it seems like there's a hiccup, and I'm like, well, why is there a hiccup to updating this thing? I think that they've reached the point of frustration, like where I think today's delivery in some way was the little clip they put out. I was like, all right, like this seems like it's Silent Hill, and then but then they don't deliver, and I'm like, well, like, would Sony and Konami really keep doing this over and over again and just annoy the shit out of people? Is it so exciting that people will just forget, and then this will be part of the story? I don't know. I really don't know what to say about that. I feel like the reason I think that there's something to this too is that I just feel like Sony has to know that they're doing them a disservice by letting them do this. At some point, they should have stepped in behind the scenes and been like, you can't do this. And there are just so many things where it's like, what is an app on the PS5 that we've never seen that before? Why would this random game get an app? Why is the language list basically from The Last of Us? Like when you pop up the localization list, as a lot of people have pointed out, and all of the other coincidences. But then at the same time, you can imagine that this is just some fucking trash that no one cares about. But I think it's got to be one or the other. I don't think there's any middle road where these people survive. Plus, the access to kind of the ghost studio doing ghost work for them. These are like luxuries that you can't afford if you don't have significant financial backing. I think there's some winks and nods from both Shuhei Yoshida and Jeff Keighley about this being something more.
His shit eating grin in that video around E3. I was like, Jeff, come on, dude. We know you were Joachim with Joachim Mogren for the Phantom Pain and all this. Like, come on, man. And that's why there's no way. Like, they're using the font from Metal Gear Solid 2 and Metal Gear Solid 3. The abandoned font is now that font. And then you've got a snake in the background with a freaking eye patch with blurred out words that look like they say, welcome to Silent Hill. Like, what I do hope, I don't know if it's Kojima. Again, Metal Gear is my favorite series of all time. But like, some people were saying that apparently there's another theory that this is Blue Point remaking Metal Gear, maybe Silent Hill also. And that this is their way to just say, it's like blue box. It's blue for Blue Point. It's the box from PS Studios. This is going to be a whole announcement thing, whatever. At this point, almost no matter what it is, unless it is like Blue Point has been acquired. Obviously, they sent out the image and they're remaking Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, and 3 and Silent Hill 1, 2, whatever. I don't know. Like, there's no way it's nothing, right? Like,
yeah, I don't think it's going to be something that heavy. I don't know what it's going to be. I just don't think it is what they're saying.
Right.
Like that's all I can say. Like there's just so many things about it. And if all of these things were coincidences, I'd just be shocked. That's what I was trying to say on the show recently on my show was I could believe that this is not something in the same way that I could believe God exists. Like, yeah, I could believe that, like that's not surprising to me, but everything in my mind points me in this other direction. And so even though I know of this distinct possibility in which I might look very stupid, I just can't look away from this man's name being Hideo in like Google Translate. I can't look away from this man having all of this Silent Hill and imagery and a connection to Jeff Keighley and even in the trailers, like some of the text they're using on the bottom, like this is running in real time and all that. That's not stuff that indie developers do.
With
And
a failed $200 Kickstarter. Yeah.
Right. And I feel like, but that's the stuff that gives you pause, where it's like they must have really set this stage a long time ago. And I feel like maybe there's so many different things it can be. Like it could be the remnants of a plan that they were going to do with PT a long time ago. It could be the remnants of some other plan that they had at Konami, that of just all these accounts. But I don't think it's that. But at the same time, why does no one know who this guy is?
Right.
Why does no one know him? No one knows him. No one's worked with him.
And no one works there.
No one works there. I mean, come on. I feel like if there isn't anything there, I don't feel bad for them. I know that a lot of people do feel bad for them. I'm like, you have to know.
No.
And I think with this most recent video they put up before they had this snafu with their update was like, people were like, that's the dude from Silent Hill 2. I mean,
right.
Looks like the dude from Silent Hill 2 with the green coat. And you have to understand no one gives a fuck about your 4-second clip of your obscure indie horror game. That's not the way you reveal a game like this.
Right.
So in one way, it's smart that they're getting people to talk about their game if it's nothing, but they have to understand the game's going to turn into a meme if it's not somehow connected to Konami and all this other stuff. And maybe it is, and maybe it isn't. I don't know. I think there's just so many things pointing in all different directions. Yet I think some of the most overwhelming evidence it suggests. I would even go so far as to say like it's impossible, right? Like, is it really possible that Caraman translates to Hideo?
No.
I'm not saying that is, and people are lost on this too. Like, I'm not saying that that's the proper Turkish to Japanese translation. I'm saying that that's what Google Translate says.
Right.
And that's obviously what they would use as the canary in the coal mine of maybe something's wrong here, like something's up. I don't know. We'll figure it out. I'm a little annoyed because I thought we would have an answer today.
Me too.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't really know. I don't know what I think, but I know there's no way this is just a bunch of coincidences. There's no way. This is either Kojima or this dude is like an evil genius and maybe the second coming of Hideo Kojima, who's maybe gotten in over his head or maybe is just emulating him. I don't know. But if this is a dude, he knows exactly what he's doing. There's no way that, his name happens to translate to Hideo and the PT with the tree over it on the sign and the trail, like all that. There's too many things for it to all be coincidences. Or like maybe it's not Kojima. Maybe it's just this guy being like, oh, I can do that too. I don't know.
Like you were saying to me last weekend, this could just be Konami trying to Kojima and doing a bad job.
Yeah, it all seems
that would be a
little
disaster.
sloppy.
I hope that that's not the case. Like, I think I've said this before, that I just think Sony is the appropriate barrier between Kojima and Konami, where they can work with each other without having to bury the hatchet necessarily. Although I think that if people at Konami are smart, and if Kojima is smart, because Death Stranding did well, but it wasn't this massive success. I think they're both strongest with each other. If they come to realize that and just bury the hatchet and pay the appropriate monies, and even if Sony has to kind of fund Kojima Productions and co-publish and all of that, just make it happen. And I think Konami is planning something, just because the Castlevania leak for Castlevania Advanced Collection indicates that maybe they have something more to say there too. And plus, they've been bringing out Castlevania collections, so there's other IP that they might be messing with. They have their kind of in process indie publishing arm kind of reigniting in Western Europe, and they're working on projects now. So Konami, I just think Konami is looking at Capcom and saying like, we can't sit here and do this anymore, because they're not only seeing success with that, they're seeing the revival of, like, not the revival, but like the second coming of franchises like Monster Hunter, right? They're seeing these other publishers selling these and seeing this massive success in revisiting things. Phoenix Wright, right? Like the collections, they just have all of this stuff just sitting there on Konami's side that they can do similar things with. And I also think that the success of stuff like Bomberman has kind of buttressed them and been like, maybe we should just get involved in this again. But they better not try to Kojima stuff without Kojima. And I also think that I don't know that they'll be able to do Metal Gear without him again. Not because I think he's necessary, but because I just don't know that people are going to allow it. I think for them to do Metal Gear again without him, they'd have to name it Metal Gear something else. And even then, I don't think that it matters because he was the creator of the original Metal Gear. So it's not. It doesn't really not Metal Gear Solid is its own thing. I know they tried with Metal Gear. What was it?
Rising. Yeah. No.
No. Yeah, I don't know. I assume, like you said before, we all assume Metal Gear Solid 6 is coming, but I think that's just like a horrible idea. If they want to remake Metal Gear 1 or Metal Gear 2 from the MSX, they've got the story built and everything. I would be okay to that. But I mean, that's not even a remake. That is a full blown that's a new franchise at that point.
Yeah, I agree. I think Metal Gear can be left alone. I don't think leaving Silent Hill alone is imperative, or Castlevania, like I said, or Contra, or all the other things. Obviously, they're messing around fundamentally with PES now, or eFootball as they're calling it now, which I think is very smart. Yep. But Metal Gear is probably one of those things where you want to leave it alone. Just like you wouldn't revive Zone of the Enders or Snatcher or like random, like you just don't need to do this. And they have enough to revive. Like, I think that they have to pivot a little bit. I think that the biggest thing that they could have now is Castlevania. I think that they need to take advantage of the anime's success, and I think they're going to. And I wouldn't be surprised to see a game like in that style. But as far as the Blue Point connection, I just find that image from Sony Japan weird. I don't know how you make that error.
Yeah.
I don't understand how that error is made. So I just feel like that's inevitable too. And maybe this is part of that, but they have to kind of shit or get off the pot soon. I just think, I don't know. It's kind of unfortunate if this is a real problem that they encountered, but it would have been, they didn't need to put a timer on this at all. In fact, they could have just uploaded the abandoned thing, said nothing about it. And it's just like, everyone's like, what the fuck is this thing? And then one day it just updates. Like, and no one had any expectations because it's just there. And then if there's a problem, then no one would have ever known to begin with. This is why I feel like maybe it isn't what we think, but we'll see.
Yeah. Like, why say 2100 CET? And then it's like a half hour later, everybody's tweeting them. They're like, oh, we have tech issues. Whatever. If
it was like, I would want to think Sony would want to have fun like this, because I totally would. And I think this is fun.
I wish.
And so that part of the fun to me would have been like, hey guys, let's just upload a package to PlayStation 5 and not say anything about it. And everyone's like, what's abandoned? And we're like, oh, no, I have no idea what that is. And then it just and then it just a package updates for it one day, and then it turns into PT or something, or, as I was saying on my Discord, I want to start this thing up so bad and just see the Konami logo, like the thing.
Oh my God, I would die. I would die.
So we'll see. I just think it would have been much more fun, and maybe they can learn that for the future, that you don't need to necessarily time this thing. If you just put it there, people will find it because it's weird and people pay attention. And they scrape the PSN, obviously.
I want the PS1 Konami logo, which I assume that's what you were saying, though. Like, that's what I want.
Right. Me too.
All right, a couple more questions here. So let's get into PlayStation stuff. For me, the answer is easy for me. But my question for you, this is something I wanted to ask you last time. We didn't get around to it, but do you have one platinum trophy that sticks out in your mind that you're most proud of? For me, I'll give you time to think. For me, it's God of War 2018. Just because fighting Sigrun, like, I fought her for around, it was like 3 to 3.5 hours. And when I finally beat her, it was the last trophy I needed. I got all the ravens and all that crap. But when I finally beat her, it was the weirdest thing, because I was sitting there in my living room, I'm playing it, and I just felt like all of a sudden it was like an out of body experience. Like my hands weren't controlling the controller. It was like I was just one with the game, and she couldn't hit me. I was dodging. I was doing this, doing everything, and I beat her. I got the platinum. It was awesome. I know Sean's platinum, freaking Cuphead, Bloodborne, Demon Souls, Returnal for crying out loud.
Those are hardcore.
Yeah. So,
I don't think I have any hardcore platinums like that, like on that level.
Yeah.
Like less than 1% rarity. I don't think I have any. Maybe Shovel Knight was one of those or something, but I don't think so. I didn't find that particularly difficult. I feel like people kind of overrated that that
I
difficulty of
just
that one.
couldn't. I couldn't beat it in an hour and a half. There was no. I freaking love that game. It's the best 2D.
Oh yeah, that
platformer.
was a yeah, that I can see it. You can really scrape the times if you really cared that much.
But do you have anything that sticks out to you? Because I'm a trophy whore, like, you know. Well, I mean, you used to be. Now you go for the real platinums, like Sean does. I just downloaded whatever the hell cheap gamer said it was, some freaking visual
Tales
novel.
of
Tales
Oh yeah,
of
no, I don't.
something.
I don't. Yeah, I only go after for the last since I was at Kind of Funny. I was only going after real platinum. So I have 122 now.
Okay,
but not to say that some of them aren't easy, but I go after games that I'm gonna play.
Right.
And if they're there, they're there. I'm looking. The rarest one I have, I think, is actually GI Joe Operation Blackout.
Oh wow.
Which is 1.1%.
Okay.
People have that. I just think it's because a lot of people didn't play it. But
yeah,
I'm looking at them now. I mean, I think Dragon Quest 11 was one that I'm pretty proud of, just because I can see myself just being like, ah, fuck this, I don't want to do it anymore. Which I've had that issue with some trophies, so that's definitely one. I'm looking at BioShock was one that I enjoyed. I got that one twice. I mean, I love getting that trophy. The Messenger was a fun one to get, but I don't really have any. I don't think I have any very hardcore ones, because I don't really think I have the patience to sit with a game, and if it has like a 1% or 0.5% acquisition rate, I'm like, there's no way I'm going to be one of these people. I just can't imagine. There's a very small chance of that being true. So
all right, last question.
So obviously we're not getting God of War, we're not getting Horizon in this year. For what's left for 2021, what's your most anticipated game for PlayStation?
Probably Tales of Arise, which comes out in September. I think I really am looking forward to that game. I'm authentically interested to see what they've done. It's been a while. Tales is kind of different now. It's dormant. A guy that directed it used to be Hideo Baba, and that was when they were doing it every year, every 18 months, and they stopped doing that, and it didn't work out too well. And I think they kind of had to go back to the drawing board and see what it means to be Tales. And I've paid very little attention to video or screenshots or anything. I'm just excited to kind of go in and see how they're going to define the series, which I fell in love with almost 25 years ago. So that's what I'm really looking forward to. And then Far Cry 6, I think, would probably be the other, which is coming out around the same time, or early September, I think. I was actually thinking about that today. I'm playing Ender Lilies right now on PS4, and which is a Metroidvania. And I was just thinking, I'm like, oh yeah, Far Cry comes out soon, and I'm like really excited. I could really use a game like Far Cry, and so I'm looking forward to just doing a Ubisoft checkbox game, especially because I don't think we're going to get too many more of them. I think Ubisoft's pretty clear that they're not going to be doing too many more. So it's kind of, I feel like Far Cry 6 might be a pretty historic game that might be like one of the evolutionary tracks between this Ubisoft and what Ubisoft is becoming, which I don't think is going to be up my alley.
Yeah. Yeah. So we both loved Immortals, Phoenix Rising last year. I know you never finished it. Again, horrible name. They should have just kept Gods and Monsters. But yeah, speaking of Metroidvanias, how you feeling about Metroid Dread? I know you weren't big on Samus Returns. I loved it. Sean didn't like it that much. He's played more of them than I have, but I'm excited for it. But I mean, on the PlayStation side, for me, it's more, God, I cannot wait for Axiom Verge 2. Kenna got delayed September. That's fine. There's nothing.
Yeah, Kenna looks great. Yeah.
Yep. And then I'm finally going to play Hades next week, which I'm looking forward to, because I just didn't want to play that on Switch. But those are the ones that speak to me so far for the rest of the year.
Yeah, Hades I pre-ordered actually, and so just so it will download to my console now. When it gets close enough, I don't feel bad doing that anymore. And I was looking at the trophies today, and apparently no missable trophies, although it's going to be a bit of a grind. So yeah, I am looking forward to that too. I think Kenna will be a nice game to play. And with Immortals, it wasn't even when I turned it on, it's just like, for some reason when I turned it on, I'm like, this is not what I want. I didn't. It's like this very cartoonish, as you know, very cartoonish, and I'm like, oh, I don't, like it wasn't anything to do with the game itself, so I can't judge it. I just, at that time, I was like, this is not what I am looking for. I paid full price for that game, so it's not like I really feel bad saying that. But so Hades is a good selection as well, and Deathloop as well, I think looks awesome. I'm glad it went gold, so we know it's not going to get pushed out. And I think that game will be pretty important on PS5 because there's just not going to be too much else to play. But I think people are kind of worrying for no reason at the same time, not only because of the inertia of PS5, but also because Sony doesn't typically release games in this window. So I don't think they were. I mean, I said it on our show and I was right. I mean, not that it was a huge reach, but I was like, I don't think Horizon was ever coming out this year. I think that the second they told you that they didn't know was the second you knew that it wasn't coming out this year.
Yeah.
And I think that they just didn't want to say it, for whatever, they probably want to get maybe through another fiscal or another quarter or whatever and get further away. And that's why I hope, going back to this thing with Blue Box, I hope it is something, because they need something like this. And I think it would generate it. Not that they really need goodwill on the market right now, but I think it would generate a lot of hardcore goodwill to be like, oh wow, you did something really cool. This is cool that you did this. But we'll find out.
Yeah. What's more egregious, like the future game show, they said God of War 21. And as soon as they said that, I was like, and I know you said it too. I was like, there's no way in hell that's coming out in 21. There's literally no way. It's going to come out March or April, but now I don't even know that I believe that. Every God of War game in the past that was a major release was like March or April, but now we assume Horizon's going to be February, March. So that means God of War is actually going to be I don't know, maybe it'll be a May or June game, like Last of Us. I don't know.
Yeah, I would think that my theory is that they're going to release Horizon 1 on PS5 this fall, and then Horizon will come out in February on PS4 and PS5. And then they will release God of War on PS5, and then they will release God of War on PS4 and PS5, the new one,
Yeah.
So I think just migrate all these games over. I always said that they were going to do that just because I think Sony is annoying.
Yep.
I don't think there's any other reason to do it that way. I mean, when we found out that The Last of Us is going to get remade, I mean, that just shows how annoying they are. So we knew that we were going to get hit in some way with some of these games. So yeah, it sucks, but it's okay. Like, I don't know. I say over and over again, like, I don't need new games. I feel no pressure right now.
Yeah.
And my business doesn't rely on it. So I feel bad for people that really do need those clicks and like that hunger for some stuff. But I'm like, we're just smooth sailing. We'll get there. Yeah.
Awesome. Colin, thank you so much, man.
Always a pleasure.
You're very welcome.
Thank you for coming on, not once, but twice. This was awesome. Obviously everybody should go to patreon.com/laststandmedia. Check out everything going over there, where I'm a proud supporter of Last Stand Media. Again, the best video game podcast on the internet that there is. And yeah, man, I don't know if there's anything else I should say. Anything else you want to plug?
No, it's okay. I don't really do these things for promotional reasons anyway. You'll find me if you want to find me. I'm there. Google my name.
Everybody can find Colin.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm out there somewhere. Yeah, but thank you for having me, and yeah, I'll see you guys next time, I guess.
Awesome. Thanks everybody for watching this episode of the Two Player Co-op podcast. Until the next time, Sean, go ahead and take us out.
Thank you for playing.